All right, hopefully everyone is doing well out here. We are on part 2 of 6 of the annual trade guides that you can find on ESPN.com. We have the Eastern Conference up and the Western Conference will be up shortly. We've broken them up into 2. You can find out everything you need to know about each team. It is a in-depth analysis, anything from what to watch, a complete breakdown. We've got a trade meter out there. We've got one trade we'd like to see, a front office breakdown from trades in the past, kind of what teams kind of a trend is, if your GM is aggressive or not. We've got salary cap information. We've got draft information. It is on ESPN.com. I think it's probably, not because I'm the one who wrote it, but I think it's probably one of the best ones that we've done in a, and I think this is year 7 here. We are going to talk a little bit about the Central Division. And of course, when you look at the Central Division, I think you have to start with certainly Chicago, probably because it's alphabetical order here. But I think the Bulls, right, like maddening. And I know we've talked about the Lonzo Ball situation here, but there are nights when they beat Golden State and Milwaukee and Brooklyn and Philadelphia. And then there are some nights where, they're getting their doors blown off here. And I think the big decision is basically, do you kind of stay as is? Or do you pivot? Pivoting is hard, right? Remember, we saw this Chicago team in 2021 at the deadline make the trade for Nikola Vucevic, who's going to be a free agent. Then they went out and get DeMar DeRozan. Then they go out and get Lonzo Ball that summer here. And then they signed Zach LaVine to $215 million a contract this past offseason. And I love when people on social media say, blow it up. Blow it up. Well, it's not that easy to just start trading guys here, as far as trading Zach LaVine for future ones here and start over again here. So I think it's a lot easier to reassess everything in the offseason here. So I think for Chicago, you basically have three different directions, right? You pivot away from DeRozan and Vucevic and LaVine. Vucevic is going to be a free agent here. Do you extend him? Eligible for 4 years, $118 million up until June 30th. DeRozan will be going into his last year next year. He's eligible as a 34-year-old for 4 years, $153 million. And as we talked about, LaVine's got, that big contract here. His last 2 years, he's earning $95 million. It's hard to pivot away, where even if you are at least get one of those final play-in spots, it gives you a chance and then you reassess. Reassessing is number 3 on my list. And then the other thing is, do you look at maybe smaller deals? Kobe White, who's going to be a restricted free agent. Alex Caruso, you've got that Portland first, right? What does that, the combination of that 3 get you back in return here? So I think for Chicago, I don't think I'd be stunned if they just start trading away guys. And I think it's, as I said, it's very hard to pivot away from what you were doing. I think you could pivot this upcoming offseason when, there'll be a team out there that maybe wants DeMar DeRozan and you can get more for him in the offseason. Zach LaVine, certainly Alex Caruso's got a really good contract. So that's my little bit of on a take, the trade that I'd like to see, Kobe White to Phoenix for campaign in 2 seconds, right? Like that's kind of like what I'm like, just, hey, if you really want to pivot, call up New York and offer Zach LaVine for basically what you would have given Utah for Donovan Mitchell. Does that make sense to you? And basically you could lose DeRozan next year and then you're really pivoting here. So that's for me on Chicago. Cleveland, I have a 7 as a trade meter here. And I think what to watch, front court depth, can you get a little more wing help? You traded a lot in that Donovan Mitchell trade. You don't have any first, but you got 8 seconds here. Basically what does, you've got a combination of players, Jetty Osman, Caris LeVert, Dylan Windler, Isaac Okoro, all those wings there that, some have a little bit. LeVert's going to be a free agent. Windler is going to be a free agent. He doesn't play. He's been hurt. Okoro, who you drafted in the lottery, has got another year. So if you're looking at it from a trade perspective, those are the players to focus on. As I said, you've got a lot of seconds to move in a deal. You're close to the luxury tax, so you have to keep an eye on that. Kobe Altman, their GM, has been aggressive, right? He doesn't kind of sit still here. This is a team that's in the top 5 in the Eastern Conference. So is there a little bit of a tweak out there? And, what do I have as a trade? Does an Okoro, an Isaac Okoro in a couple seconds and some salary filler get you Josh Hart, right? Like that's kind of Dylan Windler in a 2022 to Detroit for Hamidou Diallo. Those are the trades that you probably have to focus in on. Those are some of the names there when we're looking at Cleveland. You can find all this in the Cavaliers section. Then we have Detroit trade meter. We have a 9, right? Bogdanovic, Burks, Nerlens Noel, Hamidou Diallo. Listen, Bogdanovic is having a career year, 21 points, 42% from 3. He's on a great extension. You just signed him for 2 years, the last year. So you have him under contract up until he'll be a free agent in 2025. The last year is partially guaranteed. I think the only thing, my concern with Detroit holding on to Bogdanovic and Alec Burks is like, just don't overplay your hand. Like if you can get a good first for either one of these players, I would certainly look at that. But on the other hand, I'm thinking, wait a minute. Like eventually, like we have to be where Oklahoma City is, right? Like I need to see Cade Cunningham next year on the court and Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren and players like that on the court. Sadiq Bey winning games and not 11-34 in mid-January here. Like I need to see where they are. I need to be where Oklahoma City is here. And what happens if I trade these guys? It's going to take a little bit longer. And I understand that you are a lottery team, but I would not be rushed. If Bogdanovic was going to be an unrestricted free agent, I would certainly move him. But unless I'm going to get 2 number ones or at least one really good one, if the Lakers call and offer that at 2027 unprotected, then I'd have to consider it here. So that's a little bit on Detroit here. So the big thing for me is just like don't overplay your hand when you're the Pistons. Alec Burks been great, 14 points in 22 minutes, right? Career high 44% from 3. He's got a team option. He's got another good contract here, but the longer you hold on to that player, the less value here. But as I said with Chicago, right, you can wait into the offseason to go out and maybe make a deal that you maybe can bring back a little bit more here. So that is Detroit. Indiana, man, if we wrote about the Pacers in October, we would have them as major sellers. I know the Halliburton injury and Turner with back spasms has kind of pushed them into more of a play-in, but I don't think you have to go out and you're not going to basically wave the white flag and all of a sudden these players, you're going to give away players here. I think, are you a buyer or are you a seller? What does the Boston and Cleveland first that you have get you out there to help your roster? That's the big thing, right? Addressing that. What do you do with your $28 million in cap space? Do you go out and acquire players, or do you look to renegotiate Miles Turner contract after the trade deadline is over? You have up until February 28th here. So a lot of different questions, and we wrote about Turner at length as far as how a renegotiation will look. We're not going to go into it on this video here, but they've got a lot of cap space to renegotiate it, have flexibility in the future here. They've got 15 roster spots. What's the trade that I would like to see? How about Dario Saric and cash considerations for Phoenix for a future second? It would save Phoenix like $24 million. That's like what I'm looking at, right? I said, but if you want to take a little bit more an aggressive approach, what about PJ Washington in Charlotte? Would you sacrifice both those first, the Cleveland and Boston, for a guy who's going to be a restricted free agent? So that's the focus on Indiana. As I said, you can find all that on ESPN.com in the Eastern Conference Trade Guide. And then the final team is Milwaukee. And we really dive into Chris Middleton, who's been out with this sore knee. I mean, when he had a knee injury during the playoffs, didn't play in that Boston series. He had the hand injury that he missed, the start of the year. When he came back, he was not good. 11 points on 32% from the field and 27% from 3. Everything is kind of taking a little bit of a nosedive. Do you go out there and now here's the thing, right? You've traded first in the holiday deal to New Orleans. You're restricted. You're top heavy in salary with Middleton, Giannis, and Holiday. You're not going to move Brook Lopez. You're not going to move Bobby Porter. So how do you cobble together, right? So if you wanted to go get Bogdanovic, you basically have to move like Grayson Allen, George Hill, Jordan Nwora, Marjon Beauchamp. Like that's how you have to cobble all these. What happens if Jay Crowder, right? That's my hypothetical. You're going to have to sacrifice like Pat Connaughton or Grayson Allen to go out and get Jay Crowder. Simple as that here. So Milwaukee is in an interesting spot. They've been aggressive, right? We saw last year with the Serge Ibaka trade. We saw PJ Tucker before that here, but they're, as I said, to become a buyer in this, you're going to have to sell off one of your core guys. And trade we'd like to see George Hill and Pat Connaughton to Phoenix for Jay Crowder. It hurts because Connaughton he had just signed that extension, and Crowder is going to be a free agent. And you might lose for a team that's over the luxury tax. You might be stuck with nothing except for maybe him helping you potentially win a championship. And that's the big decision that teams are faced with here. That's why we see a lot of trades not happen until the last week of the trade deadline here. So we talked about Chicago, Cleveland, Detroit, Indiana, and Milwaukee. This is part 2 of our videos here. We have the Atlantic Division up already. Eastern Conference Trade Guide is on ESPN.com. They'll have a link there for the Western Conference, and you can find all that. This is on YouTube, and the article will be on ESPN.com. Hopefully you guys have a great night out there.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.